There's been heartbreak at the final hurdle. I went into today with high hopes that after escaping a crushing defeat due to rain, we could add insult to injury by sneaking a 3-1 win. Normally I'm cautious in these situations as we have witnessed countless collapses from Australia before and during the series. But after seeing Khawaja bat with ease and even Warner, who has struggled to get runs all series, I was hit with this horrible feeling of hope. I went to bed at the end of day 3 at peace. England were close to 400 ahead and Australia had no hope. I understood this situation. After going 2-0 up in the series and it looking inevitable that Australia would take another win, to capitulating and drawing the series 2-2. I was ready for the Barmy Army tweets. I was ready for Piers to be on every talk show in the world. I was ready for some Broady banter in the interviews. But then after going 134 for none, I got hope. And it was a stupid mistake. Just as quickly as the Australian team can fill you with hope and joy, they can take it away. And much like the last 2 games, the batters zapped the life out of all Australian supporters at around 3 AM. Losing 5 for 30 and what seemed like a close chase quickly became impossible, and eventually Broady got his fairy tale finish. And of course, just like every test match so far in this series, there is another piece of drama that clouds the victory. And I do have some pretty strong opinions on this match, but first I think we need to highlight the cricket, because at the end of the day, England outplayed Australia. They dominated the majority of sessions throughout the series, and today felt like another analogy for the series. Australia looked promising, but whenever they started to get on top, England would peg them back, and once the momentum swung in England's way, there was no stopping it. It almost seems like a rinse and repeat of last test, because when it comes to the Australian batsmen, it's the same old stories of losing wickets in clumps and getting starts but not going on to score 100s. I think chasing 384 was always going to be a massive task, and especially in the 4th innings, they would have had to break some records to get over the line. And if I'm going to be honest, they really lost this game in the 1st innings of the test. Had Murphy and Cummins not scored another 55 runs or so for the last couple of wickets, we probably would have lost by a lot more. And it looked, in defense of some of the batsmen, it looked really tough to bat out there. The ball was swinging both ways. Broady was retiring. He announced his retirement, so the crowd were up for that. It is the last day of a test series, and conveniently, they also had a 40-over ball that resembled about an 8-over ball. But regardless, it was one of those chases where you had to kind of be 50 or 60 away before losing the clump of wickets. We just started to lose wickets way too early. We still had way too many runs to get, and you could really feel that momentum shift and the game just start to slip away from Australia slowly. There was actually a point where I think it was before lunch where Smith and Heady were starting to get going. I think Heady was on about 40 odd and they were getting the runs easily. They were ticking over the strike. And again, it's that painful H word of hope hit me. Once I'd lost all faith and they started to give it to me again. I started to get my hopes up going into the lunch break. But then after lunch, it just turned into a complete different game again. It seemed really hard to score runs again. Moeen was spinning it. They were edging it everywhere. And once Smith, once Head went, it pretty much, that was the game there and then. It pretty much felt over. And I was ready to go to sleep. I was packing up my things. I was falling back into that acceptance stage. But then in strolls Murphy at number 10 and he starts looking really good. He whips a couple of hook shots for 4. They start turning over the strike. Carey actually for once looks pretty comfortable batting there. And I actually started to get this hope back. I thought, can they repeat the first test? Can they chase down this massive target and defy all odds and sneak another 3-1 win? I had this little voice in my head telling me that if Carey just turns into Stokes for the next hour or two and Murphy can kind of tap his way round to a 40 not out, we could actually be on here. We could be back on for the win. And again, that hope was taken away from me pretty quick after Broad decides to do a bit of voodoo magic with the bails and puts an end to it pretty quickly. And it was always going to happen, wasn't it? From the second he announced his retirement, you just knew that Broad was going to cook up something special, whether it be taking 5 wickets on the last day or whether it be getting the final wickets at the tail to end off the game. He was always going to do something special, and of course it came true. He bowled pretty much a picture perfect spell to Murphy. He didn't let him rotate the strike. He was beating speeding his bat by about a foot. He was hooping it with a ball that was 97 overs old. Carey couldn't score a run off him. They put the field back, didn't allow him to get boundaries. It was grim. Brody was absolutely all over the Australian batsman, and you just knew what was coming. And in the end, of course, Broad does take the final couple of wickets. And hats off to Brody. He's one of those players that over the years as an Australian, you kind of built, your Australian spirit is to hate him. You're not allowed to like Broad, but I can tell you right now, he's one of those players that you love to hate him, but you would love to have him in your team. You would take him in your team in a heartbeat. He's an aggressive player. He's had 600 test wickets, 150 Ashes wickets. He gives out banter. He can take banter. He's always entertaining. He gets the crowd going. He's just been such an important part of Test cricket. As much as that goes against all Australian in me, it's going to be weird without him in the Ashes. He's had a great career. Hats off to him. Massive respect. A legend of the game. Hopefully he does get a commentary gig as well. I reckon he'll go really well in commentary. Again, he's got good banter. He's entertaining. I think he probably will do that. And I think maybe that's even part of the reason why he retired. I've got a feeling that he has something in the works, or he does have some future plans, because to go out on a high or go out on top like this, first of all, I think is a really good idea, but I think he probably does have something in the works that he's going to fall back on or go into. And if we're on a run of handing out compliments to the Pommies, I may as well keep it going and get it over and done with quickly, but I've got to mention a couple more people because they've had a massive impact on this test, but also this series when you wouldn't expect it, and that is Ali and Wokes. I just did a video on Wokes the other week, and I kind of spoke about how whenever he gets back into the side, he has a massive impact and how dangerous he is in England. His form in England from the start to now has been unreal. He averages something like 22 in England across his whole career, and today was just an example of how good he can be in these conditions because he bowled perfect. He was swinging, he was seaming, he bowled in the good areas, he had it on an absolute string. He was bowling really fast and he had good carry and bounce. He ended up taking 4 wickets, but I think it can't be understated how important he has been for England, especially in this series. I think without him, we could be looking at a 3-1 win. We could be looking at a total different series because since he came in, that was one of the big turning points. He's held his own with the bat and he's been probably England's most dangerous bowler besides Broad with the ball. He is starting to get a little bit old now, and that actually could have been maybe his last Ashes test in England. So what a way to go out, get 4 wickets, end the series on a high. So congratulations to him. Another player that is almost definitely going to be retiring at the end. I presume he's going to go back into retirement, but Moeen Ali, what a game from him. This legitimately, I've had my fair share to say about Moeen Ali, more so with his bowling. I think he's a pretty decent batsman, but I've always been a little bit critical with his bowling, but today he showed how good he was when it comes to bowling. I think this is the best he has ever bowled, in my opinion. He was turning it, he was getting in the foot marks, he was accurate, which he has not really done that well previously. He looked so threatening to all the top order batsmen of Australia. Smith and Head were in massive trouble against him, especially after that lunch break with the clouds there. I think he bowled the best he's bowled all series, and he's had an injured leg. He's on one leg. He could barely bat. He hasn't been able to run in the field. I thought that the Australians actually might target Moeen Ali because he was injured. I thought maybe he'd bowl a few stray balls. They'll try to get the run rate up against him, but instead it's gone the complete opposite way. He broke the important partnership, and he probably looked the most dangerous out of all the bowlers. And I definitely think bar Wokes in this game, he was their best bowler by far. Really solid in the second innings. But that is enough of complimenting English players, because now we have to turn the barrel and take fire. Because I do have a few complaints that I need to sneak in, because, you know, it would just be ridiculous to accept defeat fair and square. But Joel Wilson and Kumar Dharamasena need to get these light-inducing glasses looked at, because I don't know how they've gone from a ball that is completely worn, 40 overs old, there's no riding on it, both sides are scuffed, the seam's losing a little bit of shape, to essentially a ball that's got the lacquer on it, it's nice dark red color, it's got the writing on it, and it starts moving from ball 1 and essentially maintained its swing and its seam until the end of the Australia innings. Never in my life have I seen a ball that is meant to be 97 overs old, absolutely hooping both ways and seaming off the pitch. It gives it the analogy that I think of is on Christmas Day, you're playing some backyard cricket with your older cousin and they haven't got you out for 20 minutes. So in they go, they storm into the house and they come out with the tennis ball that is absolutely taped one side and starts hooping at you. That's what it felt like because Khawaja and Warner were doing it so easily. And you notice the second, it was at the end of day 4 that they changed the ball. And the second they started bowling with it, you saw Khawaja's face be like, hang on a minute, there's something going on here. He did actually say later that he spoke to the umpires and had a word that he was lost to how they could have done that. And I don't like to get involved in drama too much, and it may be a little bit of bias, but to me, it does make no sense. The balls were nowhere near, they weren't even comparable. There was light and day between the state of those two balls, and I have no idea how England did get away with that one. Again, it's not England's fault. I mean, if Australia were handed a ball that was rock hard and new, I'm sure they would have taken it, but I don't know how the umpires genuinely let that one slip. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But at the same time, I'm not surprised at all because so far, every Ashes test, we've had a piece of drama to latch onto, and it just seems mandatory that this one was going to have its own bit. At the end of the day, did this change the game completely? I don't think so. Would the result have been different? Probably not. You just never know, but it's just interesting. There's always a piece of drama that's inserted to every Ashes test and nothing has changed here. But my tears have not finished flooding yet because we have one more piece of drama that was actually probably one of the funniest moments in this series. It's a little bit of a weird one. Just before lunch, Smith goes to flick one off Moeen Ali down the leg side and he gloves one to Stokes. Stokes jumps up, he takes the catch, what seems a semi-regulation catch, and as his arm swings round, he hits his knee as he goes to throw the ball up in the air. He drops it on the ground. You have a look at Stokes. As soon as it came out of his hand, his hands go up to his face. He knows he's dropped it. He looks up at his teammates in despair. Half of them didn't notice because they're too busy appealing to the umpire. But you can see in that moment, Stokes knows he's dropped it. Then for some reason, the rest of the team, whether it be they wanted the LBW appeal, but I think all of them were going up for the catch anyway. They've decided to review it. On review, it shows exactly as what everyone's been looking at. Stokes catches the ball, comes round, hits his knee and drops it. It's given not out. Now, I didn't think there was too much to this. I thought it was very similar to Stark's catch, how it wasn't a complete catch. There's no arguing that Stark took his catch, but then he scraped his hands along the grass, therefore it wasn't a completed catch. I thought this was the exact same case with Stokes. He caught the ball, but as he went round, he dropped the catch. He didn't complete it. And Stokes actually seemed pretty okay with, well, I don't know if okay is the best description because he did just spit on his chin and start to lick it off. So it's hard to gauge what someone is feeling when they do that. But Stokes seemed pretty all right with it. I think he knew he dropped it. That was that. It then goes to lunch though, and Stokes walks up to the umpires and starts absolutely feeding them. I don't know whether it was that he thought it was a complete catch or I don't know whether he thought he shouldn't have lost the review. In my opinion, if you're trying to review a catch, you get what you get. I just find it really funny that what Stokes said in an interview about how he wants to win in the spirit of the game with the whole Bairstow thing and how he doesn't want this controversy. He wants to play by the laws. He wants to play fair. Why are you going up and arguing that decision? It was a pretty clear-cut decision. I just thought it was odd, a little bit hypocritical. At the end of the day, they won fair and square, and I'm glad it didn't come down to this moment because I don't think my brain could have handled another one of these games ending on a controversial moment. But I just thought it was interesting there, Stokesy. I'm not sure why have you complained to the umpire there? Besides Joel Wilson miscalling about 70 LBWs in the series, you don't have too much of a case. I feel like I'm slowly becoming a cricket drama channel because as I'm writing this, the drama gets more. Apparently now both the teams didn't have their mandatory post-game beers, and I've already seen about 3 or 4 articles saying how pathetic the spirit of the game is and all that. But you know what? It probably means that it's it's a good time to call it and avoid all the drama on the news, because it was a great series. It was a great Ashes. I think 2-2 was probably a fair result after everything that's happened, and Ashes is still hands down the best series in cricket. I also want to say thank you to everyone that's been watching the Ashes reactions over the last 5 games. The support has been awesome. We now have a run of T20 internationals and ODIs before the Asia Cup starts, and I'm going to be trying to cover as much as possible, so make sure you stick around and subscribe.